So yes, and then she also invited somebody that works for their foundation to be there who was there.
Good.
So,
I thought it was, considering the first meeting, it was not a bad turnout.
right, yeah, I always wish there were more.
Yeah, we also was 4:30.
I know. I know, it's hard,
Yeah.
hard to find times that work for everybody.
Yeah,
Are you in Maine, Van? You're on mute. I was wondering if you're in Maine or Virginia.
Down in Virginia,
Oh, yeah, okay.
return tomorrow.
Probably at least as hot here today as down there. I mean, it's been surprising weather.
Yeah, here too. It's just been crystal clear skies. I hope the same up there.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Although we need rain. I think we're gonna get some, right?
Tuesday night into Wednesday.
Yeah, we're talking rain tomorrow here. Yeah.
Jackie, oh, there she's being great.
It's.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? I think we're gonna pretty much stick with the way it is on here as far as I can tell. Do people on the select board have any conflicts of interest to report?
No.
No, thank you. Once again, I was tardy reviewing the minutes of, our public hearing on the general assistance ordinance and the September 22nd meeting, but we circulated those and did people have any changes for Judy other than those we've given her?
No.
No, okay.
okay, then I have yours, okay.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we approve both sets of meeting minutes.
Seconded.
All in favor? That's all, thank you. Communications we've received from the public. It came to my attention that we have not always done the best job of thanking people who are leaving town service, whether as volunteers or on the fire department or ambulance service. And so I thought we could talk for a minute about how we would sort of what we want our practice to be so that we all know what that is and make sure that we do a consistently good job of that going forward. Do people, I mean, if whenever somebody's leaving town service, you want me or Brandon to write a letter on behalf of all of us, or if there are other special recognitions people want to do. I mean, I know Chris Lovett was on the fire department for 25 years and went off this summer, and we probably should have done something more than even a letter, which I did not do, and I can obviously do that, but
What do other towns do? Do you know anything about that, Brandon?
It all depends. I don't think there's any rule on it. It's like when I was in Waldeboro, somebody felt, somebody was retiring from the police force after umpteen years, we would sometimes even have a little party for them.
Mm.
But other times you would just maybe give them a plaque or just announce it, at least announce it. But I think it's highly appropriate, and I think it, even late in the day, we should honor Mr. Levitt for his service.
yes,
I mean, we will always, the staff will always do something if there is a staff member
Right,
leaving.
right.
And Chris was pretty adamant to the fire department that he didn't want to do anything, he didn't want any of that. But I just think as a sort of rule of thumb, especially, you know, in the fire department sense where it has been a like true service to the town, one that is, you know, sort of risks himself, you know, harm and whatnot, that the select board should always reach out when somebody sort of completes their service.
But what do you
Some kind
mean
of
by
acknowledgement.
reaching out? What do you mean by that?
It can be anything, it can be, I mean, I don't think this needs to be a policy, this is just good relationships, right? And so, if you all already like the official of the town, you know, you can send a text message, a call, you can send an email.
But I don't know
we don't
most
even
people, I don't know like their numbers or I don't know anything.
I
how to
can get you
reach
that
them.
at any point, you know, and so, however.
How
It
about
would
a nice
definitely help me,
note?
like, I didn't know about Chris Levitt.
Well, we did,
Well,
Yeah, Jay did say something
I
when
got-
he,
brought
you
it up.
brought it up
Yeah,
and
you're right.
And I
Yeah.
encouraged the select board to reach out and thank him for his service.
and then, you know, we
I
didn't.
dropped the ball.
Well, I did too, but
Speaking for
it's
myself.
true that unlike every person, the 100 people that serve on committees, I have contact information for every one of those people. But I don't for the people who are in the fire department or the ambulance, and so.
what about a nice card or note that we sign instead of like a
That's a
more
great idea.
formal letter, like,
Yeah.
what do you think, Brendan? You're giving me a side eye about
Oh,
that.
I
Is that
wasn't
what
intending,
that-
I wasn't intending to give you a side eye at all. I think you all should do whatever you feel is appropriate.
I like
That's
that
it, you know,
idea.
it doesn't.
All writing a note on a card. or something.
Yeah, I like that, but, and I think.
Something more personal than, like,
Yeah.
thank you for your service to the town of St. George.
Yeah, on
Blah, blah,
letterhead.
Yeah, on
That sounds
letterhead,
like.
yeah,
killer.
okay, all right.
Just a nice card.
And Tammy's gonna bake a cake. She
I
said.
will. Yes,
Well, Tammy,
then we have to get people to come in.
that
We
won't
can't
be
just
hard.
enjoy the.
Thank you, Wendy.
All
You're
right,
welcome.
did people have other things that arose out of communications?
I've gotten several communications just asking why you know, property taxes went up and what they can expect for, you know, a percentage increase, you know, each year, what is going to be the norm. You know, it's been just under 10 the last 2 years, and so they're wondering if that is what is safe to expect. And, my communication has been that you know, I shared some of the context around uncertainty around the pandemic, followed by absorbing the ambulance department, which, you know, was 25% of our budget, and how, because of that, some of the sort of longer term planning things were cut, and then they catch up, and that we would like to move towards a longer term planning focused budget that does not see, you know, 3 flat years followed by 3 big increases and so on, but instead, you know, something much more consistent. But again, that will come from the budget discussion that you all
Mm.
and the committee work on, in terms of how to prioritize the goals in the comp plan, and balance them against, you know, the property tax bill that comes along with it.
We also talked, and I think Jackie mentioned this, I don't know if it was at a meeting or if it was at that day when you had your open house, that it would be helpful if we had kind of a narrative description, not too long, on the website about how our budget process works and that is something I think that's a goal for this coming year for us to get. Sorry, Susie, you're, I can't see you, can't see you behind other people. You know, for us to put something together like that, cause that would be helpful, but obviously you're always gonna get questions like that. We are always gonna get questions. The warrant for expenditures. Irene sent us one, then an updated one. Did people have any questions? I guess the cold storage road. There's one that says warrant preview. That's $465.40.
That was the addition.
So that's the truck repair.
Yeah, the warrant for the 10 Cold Storage Road is the $5,240.
And both of those came from the cold storage road account, which was separate from,
You're looking at two different versions of the exact same thing. One is a warrant and one is just a journal listing.
Hmm.
so the one that says warrant preview, is that the one you mean is a journal listing, whatever that is?
I was one with preview.
This is not part of cold storage. On the road
But
truck repair.
she said earlier that it was. This is the one that's cold storage, 5,000 something.
Yes,
but that-
this was for our security cameras.
So the $5,240 was for the security cameras at the Port Glad Landing.
Yes,
And that comes out of that budget and not the. regular.
Exactly, and
Yeah, I didn't even have that. But then this one.
this one, that one you don't need to sign, that's included in this.
Okay,
Ah,
so the truck repair was included in the general town.
Right.
yes.
Right.
Stuff, okay, so. First, then, let's deal with the cold storage road things, we have to sign that. Did anybody have any questions about that
It's our security cameras.
for the security cameras?
And then there's,
That-
CPM has maybe, there's one more invoice that they don't have record of payment of. We're trying to find whether or not we actually paid it. This was in April 24th, so before I started, for the storm damage work that they did. Once we figure that out, once Tara is back in the office, we will then close out the project, altogether.
Wow.
Yes,
pop the champagne.
yes.
So then on the town of St. George treasurer's warrant, if people have any questions.
No.
No.
So then if there are no questions,
I was wondering what all under the cemetery, all the different cemeteries have amounts. I was wondering what those were related to.
We paid out the community,
Some of it is, a lot of it's perpetual care. Way back in the early 1900s, that stopped as far as people making contributions to the perpetual care trust. And that's just an annual distribution
So it's a distribution.
for those cemeteries, and that will actually be reimbursed to the general fund from the perpetual care trust.
Mhm.
but two of these are for mowing, right?
The $7,000 for North Parish Cemetery, is what they had asked us for. And that is half of what it cost them for mowing for the season.
this is in the community and social services part of the budget every year.
Yeah.
There's a cemeteries line, and this is the breakdown of those expenses. We pay them after property taxes start coming in, so that's why you're seeing a bunch of cemetery expenses right now.
But that's part of the town meeting warrant. This-
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, every year in the unclassified, there's the community and social services, and other nonprofits make their requests as well. This is all part of that.
Yeah,
We just paid all those, checks out.
So that's not from the cemetery part of the budget, that's from the nonprofit request part of the
Mhm.
budget.
Mhm.
All right, so if there are no other questions related to the warrant, we will be signing and authorizing the disbursement of $2,427,355.07.
to the penny.
It's a big one.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it is a big.
Luckily, I paid my taxes already.
Couldn't live out without you.
We're bankrolling, that's right.
personally am, yeah.
All right, so then Jackie, I think you're up to talk to us about these abatements and things.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. So there's basically two things on the list today, but there's 5 documents. So I apologize that some of this is going to take a few pieces of paper to solve one problem. But the first thing on the list is correcting an incorrect split from this past year. So there are 4 documents related to Ivan and Noah Bly, which basically are correcting a split that was not quite processed correctly. So it's just making sure that the right land is on each account in the right owner's names, and that the right buildings and outbuildings are sitting on each of those. So there's, I believe, 2 abatements and 1 supplemental, which will correct this going forward.
So I'm looking, I printed out 2 abatements and 2 supplemental. But
There's so it's 1 supplemental, and 1 is essentially the paperwork for this specific account, and the other supplemental related document is you guys basically, as the assessor, is saying, we are recommitting this tax. So you can kind of think of it as like we're gonna we're gonna commit this new set of taxes, which is only 1, and then the supplemental itself, which is more specifically related to the property in question, if that makes sense.
if people have any questions about the 4 documents we need to sign splitting this property between Noah and Ivan Bly.
But it sounds like it's fixing a mistake. Is that correct, Jackie?
Yes, so they owned property together and they had decided this year, or I guess last year, to split the acreage, which involved splitting a number of the outbuildings. So they had a big chunk of property with a lot of outbuildings on it on 1 account. And I did not process it correctly, just to be frank. So I split it and I didn't quite have things where they needed to be. So I've spoken with the property owners. I knew this was probably going to be on my list, but just did not have enough time to review what had been done. So this is just making sure that everything is really sitting on the land that is under the correct ownership for this year and then going forward.
Sounds good.
So I'll make a motion that we execute these 4 documents to recommit the taxes that get allocated to these 2 parcels and the abatements. Does that sound like the right language for the motion? Okay.
Sure.
Amy seconded, all in favor? That's everybody, okay. So then you wanna tell us about the other one?
Sure. The other one is just a property owner who provided a survey demonstrating that their property actually has less acreage than what we had been taxing them on. So this is just updating our records to match that survey, which leads to a lower land value for this property owner.
Do people have any questions about the abatement for Keith Gallant?
I move we approve the abatement.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor? That's all 5. Okay, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Okay, so the next thing is the hazard mitigation plan. Do you wanna just say what this is and then we'll ask Brian our questions?
I'll let Ryan explain what it is. that's
Okay,
here.
great.
Right, remind folks what role in which you sort of manage this project. 'Cause you have many hats for the town.
So right now it's the EMA for that. And when this was all going through, it's basically doing vulnerable, what most towns have is like culverts They have that on their list because we're always constantly getting more rain than what culverts were intended for 50 years ago. So that was one of the top things that most towns have in their plans. And then you go into, we had the generator for the shelter for the school. That was in our plan, which is now complete. And then basically now, most of our plan is Drifton Road, of course. You got, 10 cold storage, you've got
Factory Road.
Factory Road, you've got Harrington Cove, that floods. And then you've got Fort Clyde Road, so there's a bunch on there that we added this year of things, but we haven't had any plan to go forward on them until we have money. Really,
But so this is a hazard mitigation plan that was developed by the county as a whole.
and once that's done, that basically gets you Fed money. Basically what it boils down to.
And you're our representative when this was being worked on?
Yeah.
Was-
Rick Herb was the one dealing with this at the time.
Okay,
And then him and Tim, I believe, were working on it, and then he left. Tim got done, I got in his spot. And then me and Brandon finished up the tail end of it.
so to the extent that it says in the county's plan and process that information was solicited from St. George, the town manager, and our plan administrator, what are you called?
Who?
What is the?
You, the hazard mitigation plan
Emergency management,
team
EMA.
what
yeah,
is the
director.
A for?
Emergency Management
administrator, that's what I'm
The
guessing.
hazard czar.
Agency or.
Yeah,
So it's that group that have provided input about our
Yeah,
town.
and Stevie J also helped us when we did our survey for the town.
Okay, because it said in here somewhere that the select board had been asked for stuff, and in my time, we haven't been asked to look at anything or,
So that would come from Rick.
yeah,
I-
which is fine, as long as people like that have been, providing input for our town. So I had some questions from going through here, which I sent to you. So my question number 3, if you want to follow along. Do we adopt those state building codes because they listed Camden and maybe another town that had the state building codes, and I thought that we did too.
I don't think that we did.
I don't think we'd have.
No? Okay,
I remember, we.
And Terry said no.
You all talked about it in a meeting, but
Yeah,
I
I
think.
don't think we do.
okay. And,
We don't do, I think it's because we don't do building inspections.
okay,
I was surprised when I first started reading it that it wasn't like, here's where you go to the shelter, here's the emergency routes. I mean, it wasn't, it had those questions and then it would give a lot of definitions. And I understand it's for federal funding or state funding, but,
But that
It-
would have been more in your EOP.
okay, I just didn't think it.
it wasn't what you were expecting.
It wasn't what I was expecting. Yeah,
And I know we're on our to-do list tonight is scheduling the, meeting with somebody from the state to do an emergency simulation.
Ryan has our evacuation plan.
So that is out of your EOP
okay.
that you
Okay,
guys signed.
yeah, I'm sure we did.
Yeah. They sign off on this annually, is that correct?
What's that?
The emergency operations plan?
It's whenever it's updated.
Okay.
I think when I updated it, it was from 17. If I remember right.
Okay, so not annually at all.
And is this on the website? This emergency evacuation plan, operations plan?
I doubt.
Hmm.
I'd have to look.
We should probably put it on there.
Well, Actually, yes, it would be on there, because it's the VOP would be on the, I was thinking the mitigation part,
Right. Yeah, but the last time,
so that is on the town website.
I looked, it wasn't on there, but,
The operations plan, the emergency operations plan.
right, but that's been a while. Um. Because what was on there was the one from 2017 and it's a draft on there
Yeah.
in the big letters, so we probably should have the current one once it's approved. Um,
Does the shelter take animals that are at the school?
Short answer, yes.
Okay, what's the long answer? Cause I
I
would
don't
rather
like
die
to-
with my animals than
No,
not.
no
allow
cows
them.
That's why we say yes. They
Okay.
have to be in a crate and they can't be with the public.
Okay.
and these things that are in my question for like participating in training with FEMA, monitoring flood hazards, all that stuff.
Terry said yes,
Those are things Terry does or you do?
that Terry does. For the building and stuff, yes.
Okay.
And going up to your number 2 question that you had on your list. I was talking to the county, and as you can read in the beginning of that report, it's countywide. They didn't really have much input from anybody. So that.
About places that were flooding repeatedly. Yeah.
And
I
they
mean, I
said
was
it
shocked
just
when
wasn't
they-
a lot of, but there again, that was kind of right in the timeline of we had all those massive storms too, so.
Yeah, I mean, they said there was one house in Owlshead that floods repeatedly.
Mm.
I'm thinking, hello, no. I'm pretty sure there are quite a few more places in Knox County that flood repeatedly, so. And what about the school? I mean, does the school have a separate hazard mitigation plan, or do they fall under the town's plan?
I'm assuming they fall under the town's plan.
So we should just, I guess we should make sure with the superintendent that she has a copy of the county plan and has a copy of the emergency operations plan.
Yeah.
So we're all working together in the event of an emergency.
Cause the mitigation plan isn't really gonna deal with the emergency part.
Right,
This is saying, hey, this is where we're vulnerable and how can we fix it?
like the culverts and
The
things.
culverts, the roads, the generators for shelters and.
That was a question I
It's
had.
really more like preparing for potential.
Well, just like that, we know all these places flood.
Right.
So what, eventually we should have a plan on either prioritizing, are we gonna fix it? Are we leaving it how it was, you know,
Is that
Which
something
is-
more-
and
Which is-
it all boils down to is money. That's it.
Well, and a lot of this is what the resilience
That's what I
committee
was
is
thinking.
working on right now.
Right.
What was your question, Brian?
I
Sorry.
was just wondering what we were doing to mitigate damage ahead of time.
Well,
If
that's why there's a new generator at the school
Right.
for the shelter. And otherwise, we have committees working on the vulnerable points in town.
Okay.
And
Trying to
you.
figure-
Right, I mean, you're working on the culvert thing and
Mhm.
I had one more question. What kind of training or equipment do we have or do we need for first responders to deal with these kind of hazards?
And pretty much all we can do with it during, if you're talking about a storm wise.
Right, if we have.
I mean,
first responders
basically
doing it,
cones and barricades.
That's all, yeah.
I mean, that's what we're gonna deal with it initially, and then. Once the emergency's over, then it comes public works and. That's what you were looking for,
I know.
do people have any other questions about the hazard mitigation plan?
Ryan, do you have another copy of the one with the culverts and stuff and the vulnerabilities that I could just make sure they're all on my list? Is
They
that-
are,
That's the whole.
They are?
they are, they're
Okay.
the usual
We can-
suspects.
We can send you the link to the,
Yeah.
it's a lengthy document, most
No.
parts.
Apparently they're all on my list.
They're, I mean,
Anything that was hit in the January storms, is like essentially what made it onto
Okay,
this
good.
list.
I mean, the ones that are on our active list for the resilience committee. Yeah, cold storage, factory, drift in, but there's additional ones like Harrington Cove.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's on your list. It's on,
Kenny Woods
Mhm.
isn't on the list, but that got fixed recently. I mean, it's just
okay,
whenever there's a chance to upgrade our size and culverts is what we've basically been
Okay.
doing.
Okay.
In spots where we have problems.
okay.
All right, then I'll make a motion that we adopt the 2025 update to the Knox County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second,
Any other discussion?
Mm.
All in favor? It's five. And I will send this around that we have to sign and get back to.
And if there's ever more stuff that you want in there in 5 years, it's gonna be done again.
I guess
Still
you-
around.
The only thing I would say is that the select board and the resilience committee probably should have an opportunity to provide input. I don't know that it would have been any different than what the town manager and EMA provided, probably not, but it would just be worthwhile. All right, so that's coming around. Do you need this piece of paper or does Brandon take it? That goes to the county that we're signing?
I can just take it and I'll
Okay,
email it over.
good. Well, thank you for coming and answering those questions and thank you for providing the emergency operations plan. And I will, hopefully we can get these approved items on the website. So if people have questions who watch the YouTube video from tonight or anything, you can check those things out. So we had on our agenda for tonight really just a select board discussion about our philosophy of budget planning. And this is now Brandon's second year, so that we can provide guidance to Brandon and the budget committee as they launch into the specifics of going through every budget line and planning for the year, since it's ultimately our responsibility to provide that sort of guidance. And we've talked a couple of times in the last few months about the importance of tracking that budget planning reflects the priorities that are articulated in the comprehensive plan. And some other issues that have come up. Did people wanna think through the philosophy that we would like to share with the budget committee when they come in 2 weeks? About what we would want them to think about as they tackle this?
We have a really bare bones budget, first of all, and I appreciate the advice of Brandon and the budget committee and telling us, what their thoughts, but I don't know that we as select board have a particular philosophy. So,
And you feel like we should?
no, I don't. No, I feel like I trust him and I trust her.
okay. And save money.
Well, hold on,
But-
that's a great example of, we were about to approve this 10-year plan that is built in an aspirational place, right? And so we cannot execute that plan and save money, you know, and so I think it's gonna come down to leadership in town to figure out what parts of the plan are prioritized, what are gonna remain aspirations for the
Right.
majority of the.
We have to make long range plans as we budget, you know, you can't just expect to buy a new fire truck. So there has to be some balance between. keeping the- You know, I think we're all enormously aware of what the property tax bills look like, and we also know what the town needs.
And I don't think that there's currently anything aspirational built into our budget. Like,
Right.
we-
No, I think we're years away from that, being able to do that because of these big purchase, big ticket items that we need.
Yeah, I mean, because we were not building a budget that was focused on future planning, you know, the line for our revow reserve jumped by, you know, $125,000 in 1 year.
Yeah,
For 2 years in a row,
Right.
that those. you-
Well, and that,
The fire truck line is, you know, jumped drastically, and so the ambulance line, all of it.
Yeah.
Because we weren't doing that.
Right.
and I mean, it has seemed to me like it's been so bare bones that we really do get into a sticking point with, for example, our goal of resurfacing 3 miles
Mm,
a year. When you don't build in any wiggle room, and then despite your best efforts, you know, it would cost more than we have in there to do our goal of 3 miles,
Next year it'll cost more than we've ever had in there.
right?
And we had, the last few years, we've had less than we ever have.
mhm.
You know, there was more
Mhm.
dedicated to that budget line in 2018 and 19 than there
Right.
have been the last few years.
Mm.
You know,
So some of these things are, you know, I do think need to be at somewhere prioritized in some sort of
Okay. Mm.
way, you know, there's a lot of day-to-day concerns, you know, I have staff members working second jobs so that they can afford to live in this town, where, you know, my priority would be to be able to pay a living wage and keep staff for as long as possible,
Mm.
knowing that that is a better return on tax dollars,
Mhm.
because we're not wasting time and money
Okay.
training. And then we have department heads like Ryan, who's cleaning porta potties and you know, chalking tires because our departments don't have any extra support, you know, and Ashley's pulling weeds on infields, and
Mhm.
you know, and Steve Jarrett is one man to make up for a public works department,
Right.
you know.
But I guess in my view, those are all priorities that we're facing right now. They're not things from the comp plan.
Right,
well,
Yeah.
except some of those things actually made it into the comp plan.
Okay.
So the comprehensive plan did include recognizing that there's a need for a more robust public works, quote
Okay.
unquote,
Okay.
service line. And recognition that we probably need more than one person doing that work. And then I think also the fact that there's a recognition that we could benefit from having a planner on staff. That came up repeatedly throughout the process of drafting the comprehensive plan, because as we, you know, Susie's batting 4 for 4 on grants that have paid for a lot of the resilience, if not all of the resilience work we've done in the last 5 years. But the pace at which we're accomplishing things is dictated totally because this has been a volunteer-driven effort. If we had a paid person as a planner on staff who could, these things would move at a different pace than they do now. And
that is fair, but I also think that from a resilience perspective, our pace is far greater
Mhm.
than many neighboring towns of
Right.
a similar.
That's right.
makeup.
And that's totally because of the leadership from Richard Bates when he was on the select board and establishing a resilience committee, and then the people who've served ever since in those roles. So it's great that we've gotten this far with volunteers, But when you look at all these other needs in the town and aspirational plans, Susie is just one person writing grants with help from Sarah Oaktie and
Lots and
others.
lots and lots of other. people.
Yeah, and Meg. But if you add somebody whose job was to be doing that for you to get money from other places, yeah.
I just wanna point out though that there's a lot of support needed from the town. I didn't realize how much Brandon and Tara would have to do. You know, having two grants running at the same time, and we're adding to their workload as well.
Mhm.
And, I mean, certainly I would never get two grants at the same time again as a volunteer. Cause I keep saying it's like having twins, like one kid at a time. And so that, going forward, I mean, maybe we could do it faster with a planner, but. You have to look at all the other people that get sucked into the work.
Right, but
And
the
what's-
reason, if you had a planner, the planner would be doing the work you're talking about that Tara and
Quite a
Brandon
lot
are
of it.
doing, yeah. So, you know, that's where, those are actually things that were built into the comprehensive plan that could, relieve the burden on current staff in the case of the public works issues.
And if we were to do all of the things that we just talked, the few things that we just talked about now. We're not saving money, like Tammy just said, is what she wants
No,
to
you
see,
definitely.
right?
would
Like
be.
now we're looking at an over 10% increase on the budget.
That'd be
And,
Huge.
right, and so that's, I think, the priority conversation that needs to happen, you know. And the timing of it, you know, when can we hit some of these aspirations that we have, and when can we? What is urgent and needs to be done right away? What I don't want is for me to build a budget. Based on some of these things, have one recommendation, the budget committee to be like, no, we're hearing a lot of pressure, you know, here's our recommendation that shows a 3% increase. And then for it to get to the select board and then be like, well, there's. None of these things that were mentioned in the comp plan are funded in it, and so we wanna see a third, you know, that. I'm just trying
Something
to-
else, right.
So trying to bring some of those together before we start the process, because it is so intensive. And to just make sure that we are aligned. There are a lot of efforts going on in town, more than many towns this size, I think, and so. Wanting to just keep Stan's comments tonight, I think reflect a lot of folks' feelings that don't show up to. These meetings.
Right, but then people do care about the Snows Point Lodge and making that a reality. And we know that the community will come together and do as much of the labor as possible. But then there's a certain amount of money that's gonna be required to do things like that. And that's sort of an example where it seems to me like if you had a planner, they might be able to get some funding from some source that would make it happen quicker. So the reason we're having this conversation now is what Brandon just said, that he would like to hear from us, the five of us, what we consider our priorities as he starts his draft of the budget, and he doesn't want to hear, you know, I mean, obviously, the budget committee is asked to provide their independent judgment as they work on the budget, but you know, he needs to hear what our priorities are from us.
One of my priorities is just to work with our excellent budget committee, because I think they're a tremendous asset to the town. So that's sort of, you know, just a general concept. I really like, I think Susie might have mentioned it, but the idea of looking at long-term, the long view, and like, so when we're budgeting, we're not just thinking like, take care of this immediate need before something happens or the truck breaks down, but let's think about, I'm a big fan of reserve accounts, creating reserve accounts for things that you know you're gonna need in the future, then you aren't hit with a sudden cost and tax increase that people don't wanna see, and we're like scrambling to fund something, whether it's a new boat or a new truck or road work or something, but to be sure that we're looking well ahead. If, as much as you can, I mean, you can't predict the future, except that costs will go up. That's that's a pretty sure deal. Probably nobody complains when taxes go down, right? You don't get any.
I don't know that they ever have.
They probably have, so it's a moot point, yeah. But that's just some thoughts I have, and I think, you know, I hope our priorities come from the community.
Well, and that's what drove the comprehensive plan,
And
so,
as I said that, I was thinking
Yeah,
plan.
I mean,
but
that's-
also what we hear from people when they come here.
But it's a 10-year plan, not a 1-year.
that's
plan.
right,
That needs-
it is.
Yeah, that perspective needs to be, I think, sort of ironed out of it, because if that had been chosen to be built into the comp plan in the way that it was written, which was intentionally was not like you talked about tonight,
Mhm.
but we need to do that process at some point. Like everything in here has a price tag. It needs to be
Right.
sort of prioritized and figured out how and when.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about saving money. Sometimes spending money is a way of saving money. I'm not saying all outdoors, but you know, you spend for something that is actually over the long run is gonna save you. So that's just a
Right.
concept to keep in mind that,
Well, that's the whole purpose of the 3 miles a year, is so that they're never so terrible. That you have to
exactly.
undertake a
that
much more
costs
expensive.
$20,000.
Right.
Per mile, yeah.
Well, I am very much in favor of um ensuring that the staff that we have is fairly compensated. And that we have adequate staff to meet the goals that we have for the community, you know, whether it's in the comprehensive plan or, you know, the things that you already have one person doing. We have one person in Parks and Rec, one harbor master, you know, one code enforcement officer, and there's not much backup for anybody, even with Irene, you know. I mean, Tara, I guess, is Irene's backup, but so to the extent that you're
Well,
thinking,
even Irene doesn't take a full week off at a time because, I mean, up until very recently, nobody else could run payroll. We've been working on trying to get some of that.
right, so for me, one goal is to make sure that you feel like your staff is properly supported and compensated.
Staff retention is really important.
Right,
I mean, we have such a good team working with Brandon.
and the long range planning, everybody, and you're already working on a range capital improvement plan. Which we've been doing some of that, but not as much as we need to be doing. Are there other things people wanna provide? Georg?
I'm about to complete my first year with the budget committee, and there are 2 items that I would like to share that I noticed. The first is when we have the town meeting where we vote on the budget, we vote about 20 line items.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't been on the budget committee, I wouldn't have seen the forest for the trees. I wouldn't know, we wouldn't report for what number it adds up. You can do this secretly, but we don't know how it compares to last year. And we don't give an outlook what might be ahead of us. I didn't find this very transparent. Maybe we do it intentionally because everybody voted yes, because there's no point where you could question the numbers. It's just 20 numbers. And the second thing I noticed, Susie mentioned this already, some items don't show up, although we have them in the back of our minds, like the harbor master needs a new boat, the fire truck needs to be there. And we tend to wait, that was my impression, I may be wrong, until the last minute when we have to say that and then the budget jumps. It would be much fairer to put money aside years ahead. And it seems when we have the pressure to not increase the budget too much, we take these reserves down. And only at the last minute you say, folks, that's what it is, take it. So both together, I would, if it were my company, I would encourage to have a much more controversial discussion all the years to openly address these things. And maybe it gives transparency to the voters, and maybe it builds a little bit of pressure. For example, we have these problems because there are not enough volunteers. It would be maybe build up pressure to encourage the one or other teenager to volunteer with the firefighters and the medical team. Now we have to professionalize all that. So that would be my, having grown, spent my career in the corporate world, that was much more transparency and controversial discussion. That the picture was more, should I say, honest or more transparent?
Yeah, I think that, the discussion about increases to the percentage increase on a budget line generally happens in the conversation when, like, you talked about that at the meeting. This is the department that has the biggest increase of the departments this year, and this is why. It isn't in the written stuff that people see for the budget warrant. And that's mostly because of the way Maine law requires a certain format for the budget warrant. And that's also true for the school budget process. But it doesn't mean that we couldn't have additional explanations or, like asterisks, this is, or someplace where you said what the percentage increase is and why. Because I think to me, I find the whole town meeting thing very colonial and archaic, I would prefer to have it not be required that people be there in person, and that's where you learn about your budget for the year,
Well, you have many opportunities to learn about your budget for the year.
Well, right.
Every budget committee meeting is open to the public.
No, I'm not talking about me personally, because I have plenty of opportunity.
No, I know.
But
I mean, anyone in town though.
I know, but then you have somebody like Stan Fox who, who cares, and yet he could come to all the meetings and people just don't.
I think it's fair feedback. I think there's more information about the budget and how it works that we can provide to voters. And I'm also up there explaining why there's $500 allocated to utilities and parks and recreation. That's very transparent. The people get to see that small and specific of a breakdown and ask for why. And it's because we have porta potties and an electric
sign.
scoreboard,
Yeah.
and so as opposed, there are other budget meetings that give you a few big buckets to vote on, and that's it, you'd be voting on a whole department's total sum and not have any idea how that's broken out.
Yeah, the school's budget is much less detailed than ours. Irene?
I'll just use the Harbor Master boat as an example because you brought that up. I think they were putting, I think it was $2,000 a year aside in the reserve account. And then
That's pretty
because
fun.
of the lack of the 10-year forecasting, we weren't really looking at when we were gonna have to replace this boat and what are the prices now? So what are we really gonna need? So realistically, Ryan has been running in a boat for the last 2 years that he shouldn't have been.
But I do think Eric's point is correct. It appears from looking back that the 3 or 4 years before I started here is a way to respond to a pressure to keep taxes down. It is the reserve accounts that were cut.
Right.
And eventually that catches up with you.
Yeah.
And also budget for historic prices, not looking forward at what a fire truck or a boat is gonna cost in 5 years when we're gonna pay for it.
Mhm.
I'll just look at COVID and now, I
Right.
mean, prices of.
Right.
Yeah, they
Now we have tariffs that are caught changing the price of aluminum and.
Yeah.
Well, and tariffs are a good example to me of why the bare bones process we've used the last handful of years isn't adequate, because if you have some, whether it's COVID or tariffs, some surprise, you have to have some room for error that is different than having a town meeting, you know, so that we can spend $8,000 more on something. That just seems silly.
Well, it all boiled down to the fridge. When we had a fridge, a dishwasher, and something else went, and we had to break it up against like 3 different departments to pay for it. Cause it wasn't in the budget. I mean, just little things like that.
So as we're providing guidance from, if I'm interested in hearing if other people agree, but I personally would favor having a little more cushion. It's great if you don't need to use it, then we have extra money at the end of the year, fine. But, you know, to be up against it, where you have needs like paving 3 miles and you can't do it, to me, that seems unacceptable.
I don't think that I necessarily wanna see cushion where we're taxing folks on money that we may not need. What I'd prefer to see is reserve accounts that then the money's appropriated for a specific purpose.
That's fine.
Meaning it doesn't just go into the undesignated fund and can be.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
We no longer have reserve accounts?
We have them all. We have them all. Many of them have not been funded to the level that in which they need.
So they need to be taken care of,
We need to take a look at them.
back up to speed.
The revow reserve, I think, had started for a couple of years before I got here. Does that sound right, Susie?
I think it.
We started as soon as we did the last revow, but we based it on what we paid then.
And never looked at.
What
how
they
the
were-
Price was increasing, so they never increased.
Once again, we used historical pricing instead of anticipating what. it
Well,
would
and,
actually-
and
So we were
I'm,
2 years out and, we had 25,000
Mhm.
put away. And we were 2 years out from having to pay a $330,000 contractor.
So we need to look at these reserve accounts and bring them
We need to
historically
look
up
at
to,
stepping them up. We
Right.
can't probably do
and
it
adding
all
in what it's gonna
in 1
cost
year.
possibly.
Like the boat, we had to get a boat. And the rebound,
We'd only been putting $2,000 a year. in.
Ambulance and a fire truck.
Look
all-
at-
all the things. We
Yeah.
just have to look at when we need them as best we can guess. So we have this many years to grow that to this amount. And just focus, and not be so afraid to jack people's property taxes. And look for other ways to fund things. Cause there are other ways to.
right, and that's where I think the planner benefits you. If, if you've got things that we wanna do, and we have somebody who can spend a lot of time looking for money out there, then
That would help with resilience, cause we're looking at millions.
We are.
Millions of dollars of need. And we don't want to fund that with property.
well, we can't. It's gonna cost way too much for this little group of 2,600 people.
So,
Right.
we have some creative work.
Do people have any other overarching principles we wanna share with Brandon? I really wasn't expecting budget committee people to be here because we're meeting with you guys.
did invite us.
Well, you're always invited. And poor Betty, she came and I said, oh, that's next time, and she left. I'm sorry, that was my mistake. So she'll be here next time and we'll have a shorter version, I guess, of this conversation for next time it's also your quarterly, that's your main topic next time. But did people have any other overarching philosophical budget goal thoughts to share with Brandon and Susie? All right, well, do you feel like that was?
let me just jump in for two seconds here. I've often thought that as we went through the budget process at the town meeting, it's almost like you should have a justification sheet that goes with each of the 20 things that's done there. It could be assigned for people to justify it, but I think some justification would be helpful. Again, that's a big order.
Well, I mean, obviously, there are short explanations you could provide or comparisons, like Garrett was saying, you know,
Well,
if
yeah,
there's a cover sheet.
yeah, I'm suggesting something written that goes along with it,
Right.
You could reference each thing or things you thought were important to point out. Again, something to consider.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, everybody. That was helpful. I hope it was helpful to you, was it?
Think so.
Okay.
Sounds like we still wanna do a lot and.
Well, it's. Hard choices are gonna have to be made, but this was really for, the beginning of the process. We got lots of meetings ahead where we're grappling with the
Sounds like a
specifics.
lot of support for the reserve accounts and taking a look at that and thinking.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right. So one of our select board priorities for the year was to have a community conversation about the possibility of monitoring or regulating short-term rentals. And I feel like we should host such a community conversation sometime between now and April. It could be a panel discussion of what some other towns have done, what works, what doesn't work. And for people to share their feelings about whether this is something St. George should consider doing or not. But if we're gonna have a community discussion like that, one of us is gonna have to be the point person who will make it happen, put it together and get speakers and stuff. And I have some ideas about that, but it would be helpful if someone else agreed to take this on and kind of spearhead this effort. So you can't just all be looking down at the table right now.
Well, Wendy's.
Don't all volunteer at once.
I know, I don't wanna
Chance to say.
Yeah, I will not be a fair and impartial person. No, we are not doing that.
Well, I know you're looking at me.
I am looking at you.
I don't know that I'm the person, I don't know that I have the time or how I would find speakers. I'm not prepared to do. I mean, I don't know how to really.
I mean, it's,
Even just talking to other towns, I'm at work all day, every day.
it is something we could ask Aaron to put together.
Mm,
I mean, I'm happy to do some research and come up with some.
Well,
stuff, but-
other people have already done a lot of research.
Right.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel, because even during the comprehensive plan process, for the housing section of the plan, they got a lot of information, and we know what Rockland and Camden are doing or have considered. So there are people within Knox County that we could invite to say, this is what our town is doing. And then we could invite somebody from one of these housing organizations to present like pros and cons or something, and then we just open it up to residents to say what they think. Is that the kind of meeting we could envision having?
I think that'll be
We,
way more raucous than that. I mean, I
but
think
it's
that,
okay if it's raucous. I mean, I don't know how we're gonna ever figure out if people wanna do it if we don't say, some people are very concerned about this, and these are things that some towns are doing. We don't, I mean, if we had a consensus on this group of a plan that we wanted to pitch to the community, that would be one thing, but that isn't where we are. This group
But
doesn't.
I'm not
agree.
sure having speakers at meeting number one is helpful. I mean.
So you think it would be better if we just laid out this, like Aaron or somebody, this
Right.
is what Camden's doing, this is
Right.
what Rockland doing.
Right.
This, and you know, these are the options,
Mhm,
how does this group feel?
mhm,
And then just start from there.
mhm.
Start with a community discussion.
Yeah, I'm not sure that having speakers from a housing organization or something would be helpful at that stage.
What do you think, Tammy?
Well, I'm thinking that we could find out what other towns are doing and then decide if we even wanna go forward with anything more.
I think we know that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I
we
think
know what,
that.
we know what some of the other towns are doing.
I think
And
presenting that to
Well,
the public.
present it
would be
to our public though.
Right.
Mm.
We might know what they're doing, but
Mm.
does our.
no, right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm suggesting, that we would put up some slides, like this is what Camden's doing. and this is,
Feedback.
you know, this is one scenario we could pursue. This is, we'll put up like 3 different scenarios. And then say, what do people think about these things?
And get feedback,
Yeah, does that make sense?
yeah. And if they start pulling out weapons, then we'll know. No, we don't wanna do that.
Again, I mean, I think we always have to fall back to the place where nothing's gonna happen unless the community
Right,
votes.
they have to vote on it in.
We hear so much concern about the housing situation,
I think you'll find more support for it in the community than you think you will.
that we need to at least have this conversation. There is that tension between, don't tell me what I can do with my property,
Absolutely.
and don't make it too many houses in township. You know, just investment rental properties. So these are the options of ways you could deal with this, or you don't.
You know, that's right, they don't.
All right, well, I'll get together a little group of people that can make this happen.
Aaron can make this happen. You can,
I know.
you can delegate the whole thing to her and she can pull it together.
She and Greg can make this happen. Because he's, you know, through the Chamber of Commerce and the state organizations that track all this stuff, he knows the most about what different communities are doing. And so between them, I'm sure we can put together.
This would be like something upstairs, not a
Yes.
select board meeting.
No, this would be a special,
Special event.
we're just gonna all get together and hear what other people are doing and take the temperature of St. George.
We could get this information before that meeting.
Oh, yes, I think. We'd wanna do that.
I'm really in the dark about what, you know, I don't personally know what other towns have done and what they can do. I know there's.
Well, it goes from towns where they're prohibiting anybody that doesn't have a short-term rental now from no
Yeah,
more,
right,
to towns where they set a number and then people are on a waiting list,
yeah.
to
Okay.
towns where what Camden's doing is they basically are, it's almost like a license. If you want to do a short-term rental, you pay $300 to the town. The town pays somebody to inspect your rental, and then they will sort of certify that your septic capacity is gonna work and your electrical is up to date or whatever. And then they're just keeping track of the places that do short-term rentals.
Good way to increase revenue going out.
I mean, you would obviously then have to be paying somebody to do the inspections.
If you do that,
If,
we could just.
We
take
could
a
not
fee.
do the inspection.
well, yeah, but I mean, I don't, if you were. Yeah, so there are lots of different iterations to this, but I think we should sort of pick a few that have been adopted in towns similar to ours rather than Barcelona, where they're outlawing short-term rentals, you know.
That wouldn't fly.
Well, no, and it's not us, you know,
We
so.
can't do it.
All right.
Could be a lively conversation.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be interesting. All right, well, I have a motion to, nominate Rebecca Hutner. Do we know how her last name is pronounced? To serve as an alternate on the Emergency Services Committee. Dr. Lowry has spoken with her and wanted me to, move that we appoint her.
I'll second it.
All in favor? That's 5.
EMT on our staff, she's not full-time, she is, I think, about to complete paramedics.
Great.
So that will mean that of the full members of emergency services, 2 of them do get paid currently,
Okay.
she and John Dillon. And then the other people and the alternates. Thank you.
That's yours.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So it seemed to me like it was important for that committee. For the majority to be people who are not paid by the town, to avoid conflicts, and that we're still in that place.
But she's a younger person.
That's true.
Yes.
That's good. Diversity. So we do need to set a date for, this would be a special meeting sort of thing. Where somebody from the state comes and works with us on a simulation of how we would respond in an emergency. And what time of day do we need to do this?
We'll leave the evening.
Okay,
Is
think
it
the
that
evening.
we're involved or the ambulance and the fire
You
department?
are.
it's us. Am I gonna be dragged around like a?
Dead body.
Oh, no. No.
I don't think we're role playing in a physical standpoint
No.
where you're gonna.
All right, well, you will be signing something that says that I will not be dragged around like a corpse.
So
Deal.
my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, was that you were hoping we could do this by the end of October?
Ryan suggested that you look for late October. He's been talking to her.
So if people were okay with it, since most of us are free on Monday nights, we could do it on Monday, the 27th.
I
At
think
6,
that's okay with me.
at 5 or 6 o'clock, whatever time the state official wants us to do it. Does that
Let's
work
do
for
it
you guys?
earlier.
So, well, but
No,
Brian and
4 o'clock.
Tammy,
Oh, yeah.
so what
Yeah.
time would be the earliest that would work for you guys?
I could be here by 5.
5, okay. So you let us know,
August 27th, is that what you said?
yes, Monday the
getting dark.
27th,
5 P.M.
or 5 or 6, you tell us what the person wants to do.
We could make it by 5 before anything.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if 5 works for them, that's what we'll do. Okay, and I'm reminding you that we have our joint meeting with the school board at 5 PM on October 15th. That's, I guess, for us to lay out once again that we've got legal advice that we need to follow the law, and so we will share that again and ask them to work with Brandon on submitting the paperwork so that we can do it in a way that's not onerous for them or our staff. And today, Rob Kelly and I met with a group of people in the community to talk about the cell service challenges in town. You know, that probably some of you filled out that survey. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to do it. So far, 117 people have filled that out. Most of the business owners in Port Clyde filled it out, and some others. So that information, as well as letters from the town, the boat line, the Linda Bean businesses, and some other, the school groups in town, will be put together as a packet that we will share with cell service providers and cell tower, owners. And it is American Tower that owns the Tenants Harbor Tower.
American Tower is the one on the district property,
Okay.
but they're like a middleman. They're
Right.
not.
They don't provide this.
Now, they get renters, subcontractors, but they don't do anything past that initial, as far as I know, that initial work on placing cell towers.
Right,
Yeah.
and then, yes,
There, and Rob had a question. He said that some company called Tilson proposed putting a tower at the Fort Clyde Fire Station property, but that was nixed because it's a Lifeline landing site.
I sent the group all of the minutes from when that conversation came up a few years back.
And
I
that's,
believe you were on it, so.
that's what the minutes show, but, his point was that if we can provide them Lifeline with an alternative landing spot in the Port Clyde area and make available the fire station property for a tower, that might be, a partial solution to the challenge. So those are the kinds of things we
Yeah.
need to be.
The
thinking about.
problem with all of this is it's not cost effective for them to put a tower down there. How many people would use it? It's just.
Well, but one of the things these letters are gonna include is, the lighthouse has 50,000 visitors a year. The boat line has,
50?
yes.
Mm.
That's what the information for last year
Mm.
said, how many countries and how many people.
Well,
And then the boat line has X thousand people. And then,
okay, okay.
you've got, 22 billion in landings from fishermen in St. George for the last year for which that information is collected. And you've got big trucks coming to go pick up stuff in Port Clyde,
Mm.
and their cell phones don't stop working and they don't know where they're going.
Mm.
So the goal is to put together the strongest case
Mm.
in this packet.
As you know, that there was a tower approved for west of the marsh. And the planning board went through the site assessment. They granted the application, and that was, I would say, 2 years ago.
Right.
And it's never been built. I think that was AT&T. And they had somebody going around all these sites, getting permission to do it, but then they needed to sell their spots on the tower to different mobile services. And I think it never became something that they wanted to do. Cause it was never started. I mean, there was no significant action on it. And it was a landlocked parcel. But yeah, that never happened.
So the biggest, we also today talked to a woman from Shelley Pingree office,
Mm.
which was, of course,
Mm.
because it's the shutdown, she can't. She can't get some of the information.
Yeah.
We would need to build on this, but. I think all of us feel like the challenges that emergency services
Mhm.
are the biggest selling point and probably the most likely source of grant funding.
Mhm.
From the feds would be if our fire and ambulance teams are not having consistent service. And then we do have a population where the median age is 64.7.
Mhm.
And if they need to call 911, they need to be able to call 911. If your car breaks down in Port Clyde or something. So anyway, I'm just giving you an update on that process and, I
At
would,
this point, I think what the only role for the town to play is whether or not there's another landing zone for Lifeline in Port Clyde.
well, we need to put together the letter from the fire and ambulance folks and the harbor master about, their experiences with challenges and concerns that they have. And then, so that is our biggest piece of it. And, I did ask Leticia Van Buren, who works for Knox County, to help us put some economic development information in here, you know, which I did get today, because if people look at only 2,600 people live in this little town, so where don't think you're gonna make any money, that's a skewed perspective, because we do have so many people that come through here, and so we're hoping to put together a packet that reflects the economic impact. You know, Veronica said she had somebody who wanted to rent a house for 6 months down here, but they wanted to guarantee that their cell phone would work, and she couldn't do it, and so they rented a place in Rockland. And so I think just having examples, that's not as big a concern for a cell company as EMS not working on the day of that golf cart accident, which we know was a concern that day. So, and then, yes, the Life Flight alternate landing spot thing. So, your report. It feels like we've been here for a long time, because we have, but it is only 7:18, so.
There's I think all that tangible to update on English Town Road at this moment. I spent most of last week in the vaults, just pulling out any sort of supporting documents for all the different steps and stages that have affected the status of English Town Road. And I'd sent those to Bill Kelly, as you all saw, and we received some interpretation from him. And at this point, I believe our next step is that he would like to have an executive session with you all to sort of get clear on the approach that the town wants to take with this very complicated road status issue.
So do you need a time from us for that too, then?
I've been trying to, my hope was that I would hear back from him. You know, we started that process last week, so my hope is that it will just be in one of your already existing select board meetings rather than adding yet another meeting to everyone's plate.
So we have
2
2 other select board meetings now in October after tonight. So maybe one of those, because you don't feel like there's any pressing need to have it sooner.
Yes and no. I would not want to rush the process, and I think that it needs, attention as soon as we can give it to it, so.
I saw there's a house for sale. I don't know where it is. Maybe it's before
I think that's
this,
the other.
I think it's the
the
other
other
side.
side. Okay.
And speaking of additional meetings, I heard back from Sheriff Polkey today. He offered to come to tonight's meeting. I'd said that I think that you all had hoped to promote it to the public more. That you all felt well informed because of his visit last year, and this was mostly to help get the message out to the public. Because when we did, folks did not always believe our advice or interpretation, and it would be great to hear from the department directly. And so he said he would let me know. He said that would have to be a special meeting, because I gave him our meeting schedule, and he's going into his budget building season, and so I don't think that he can make many other Mondays, but I'm waiting to hear back from him on date down, and we'll hold a public forum
Okay,
around that.
well, we can choose a date for a public forum with him by email.
Yep.
So you can let us know, and the same with the executive session with our attorney, you can circulate those dates to us and we can say when we're available to do those things by email, because the public will have notice of when those things are happening and,
Yeah, and again, my hope is that the executive session will just be at our next
right.
select board meeting.
Do you have anything else for your report?
Nothing at this point.
All right,
Floats coming out on the 15th, right?
They are, yes, and some of our other seasonal shutdowns will happen. Porta potties will be removed from public facilities.
except in Port Clyde.
Yeah, those will remain year round. One of the dumpsters will remain year round.
Good.
Thought the Port Clyde floats was the 21st.
Oh, they're later.
Ryan said they go back to
That is right, actually.
23rd.
So we try to schedule for the 15th every year. We heard back from the crane service, and so floats both in Tennant Harbor and Port Clyde are coming out on the 21st.
If this weather kept up, it'd be why we even haul them.
Yeah.
It won't.
It was beautiful.
We'll bring the ramp out, to drift in at that point as well.
Where are you storing those
Which ones?
floats, the Port Clyde ones? Just out of curiosity.
I'm not sure if we will bring them up to the fire station or just leave them right there. My guess is that, I'm not sure yet.
Parking lot won't be so busy in the winter.
No, it's already not, and even
Yeah.
less so in the winter, but
That would be convenient to just have them right there and.
yeah, they're not, they're huge, so they're not easy to truck even the short distance up the road.
Yeah.
As somebody that uses that facility frequently, do you have any suggestions?
I think there's already not enough parking there, so.
You're
In the
concerned with that?
winter- in
for the winter
it'll
too?
Probably fine. I mean, I don't know how much it would take up. It gotta take up that whole line, right? I mean, I don't know how high you can stack them.
I'm not sure that they can be stacked right now with the posts coming off.
So they'd take up the whole side.
The
The 4
front
hour
of the,
yeah.
mhm.
It's gonna get less busy, I guess, but. You know, there will be people there. It gets used all year.
And the parking restrictions will be lifted in on the 15th as well, so you can. There's no time limit to your parking.
They all have floats in them, it won't matter.
10 platforms.
All right, committee reports, the planning board.
The planning board met and it was really mostly a workshop on the new state housing statutes and how the town needs to change its ordinances to reflect the state statutes. So, some of the things are additional height will be allowed, for affordable housing. One interesting thing is you cannot do affordable housing in the shoreland zone. It's not practical because of all the regulations. And now under state law 1829, you now can do 3 ADUs and you can do 4 units in comp plan growth areas. So that's a change of how many units you can have on your property.
But
So-
you still have to meet.
Right, I was gonna say that some of this stuff does not apply to us because we don't, in general, have supplied water and sewage facilities. So, the acreage size has been reduced from 1 acre to 20,000 square feet. So that's the minimum lot size in a growth area. Let's see, and all of the draft regulations will come from the state, suggesting how each town can fulfill the state laws. So we, the planning board, are waiting to, I think they just actually arrived this week, and Michael Jordan is taking the lead on tailoring those generic state statutes for our ordinances.
So we didn't know all this when we assigned our growth areas in our comp plan?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it was at that time, some of these things were just proposed. And some had been adopted, because these are several different statutes that have happened in the last year and a half. But yes, most of this we took into account when we were planning, but then Wendy and I met with Ann Cox and Michael Jordan on Friday, because I wanted us to be thinking about when do we need to have these ordinance changes done by? And we've got plenty of time, because the statute says that for a town meeting municipality like ours, the new ordinance would need to go into effect in 2027. So I'm thinking these will be part of our town meeting next spring. And Michael can guide us in what the proposed ordinances should look like. So, because that's,
Again, all this really only applies to if a project meets the state's definition for affordable housing.
Right.
That's
and-
right.
Right, and,
and,
right,
and the
There are no
current,
efforts of that currently in town.
that's
that's
right.
right.
The Brookside development, the CDC is planning, while more affordable than typical, does not qualify as quote unquote affordable housing, which there's like a formula of how little money you
Right,
have to
right. The
make.
mean income in Knox County that you have to be
X
percentage below it. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, they're looking to provide housing to people, houses that cost maybe like 200,000 instead of 400,000. They're not talking about $80,000 houses or whatever. So, but even if we have no such projects we anticipate at the moment, we do have to have our ordinance updated to comply. All right, and you have coming up in October, you have that Verdine Pier.
Oh, that's the next, planning board meeting, not tomorrow night, following week,
Okay,
yeah.
and the Harbor Committee hasn't met. The Budget Committee is meeting at 4:30 on October 20th, right before we have our special town meeting. Cemetery Committee,
The cemetery committee met the second at 2 p.m. here at the town office, and they are working using the draft guidelines from the previous committee. They're working to sort of change those to fit the current situation, so they're working on the guidelines. And they will create a updated document, and once they get that finalized, they'll bring this to the select board. And the committee and the sexton discussed a fee structure. They have a lot of research on how other towns do it, and they're really focusing in on this non-resident thing and having a different higher fee for non-residents, and looking at what they have left for acreage and taking into consideration green burials and wetlands. They don't really have a lot of space left there, so they're really concerned about needing to address this issue and making sure there's enough space for residents if they would like to be buried at Seaside Cemetery. So their next meeting is, they're gonna have another meeting this month, which will be August 15th, and they're gonna continue work on their guidelines and also look at their fee structure more.
October 15th.
October
Right.
15th, yes.
Okay. Thank you. The state, community paramedicine regulators are gonna meet this week to decide on whether they're gonna extend the time by which people need to have that upgraded certification to be community paramedicine providers. Dr. Lowry did tell me he believes that timeline will be extended, but hopefully I'll be able to tell you by the next meeting that that has happened. Conservation Commission.
They met, but I opted to attend the community forum at the school, so that was at the exact same time, so I will try to bring an update at our next meeting.
All right. Shellfish Committee.
The Shellfish Committee. At 5:30 in Warren. And, I should just also say the Recycling Committee also meets that day, October 21st, here at the town office at 2 p.m. So we'll be busy that day.
Right. Parks and Rec.
I believe they meet the 14th. Coming up. They haven't met since.
Going back to, solid waste. Now, Beverly Emerson is somebody who's been on the solid waste committee for a while,
Mhm.
right?
Yes,
So,
many years.
maybe I could get a card for her too, and then get all of us to come. So that we
Yeah,
are doing this for people. I mean, sometimes if people are here, we can say thank you as at their last meeting. And I feel like that is good recognition, but if we're not gonna see people, I would like us to do something. Resilience.
On October 2nd, there was a meeting at the school, the first community outreach, community engagement. October 1st, a meeting had taken place in South Thomaston. So on October 2nd, I think there was about 30 or 35 people that attended. And the beginning of it was a slideshow, which was, I thought was really interesting, that showed all the flooding, all the high water levels in both towns. I don't know if anybody saw that. And then there was an interactive portion where people put dots on maps of areas they're concerned about in terms of resilience and climate change. And people told their personal stories and they were jotted down. And I'm trying to think what there was another table that people gave names of stakeholders and categories of stakeholders for the resilience plan. So that's the big thing. We have another meeting, I think whatever that Friday is, the 24th at 4 o'clock. And it's actually in St. George this time.
Well, I thought that was, a good kickoff at the school last week.
yeah, it was interesting. And I heard they had a pretty good turnout at St. Thomas as well.
They did.
And the TIF committee is on pause. I think sometime this winter, we can revisit what we're doing about that. For now, it's still a pause. So for follow-up items, I'll get a card for Chris Levitt and Beverly Emerson. We will get from Brandon when we're gonna be meeting with Bill Kelly in executive session and when the sheriff's coming down for a public forum. And I will work with Aaron on scheduling a community conversation about short-term rentals.
And I will let you know on a date for the emergency scenario.
Okay, good,
Proposed right now is the 27th.
right. So we should all have that as a tentative date in our calendars, 5 o'clock on 10/27. And will you also make sure these emergency plans get put on the website? This one and the hazard mitigation. We just need to have a link to the hazard mitigation thing. I think, don't you? No. All right, so we will see each other next at 6 o'clock on the 20th, when we will have a special town meeting first to vote on the comprehensive plan. Hopefully that will be quick, but it's important for people to pass that, so encourage your friends and neighbors to come. And then immediately after that, we'll take a few minutes break for people to leave. We'll have to be doing this upstairs, and then we'll do the select board meeting.
If 15th, we meet with the school board.
And right, sorry, the 15th at 5 o'clock in the art room at the school board.
No shortage of meetings.
I know October is gonna have more than usual, so. These are all for you and Irene.
We adjourn or no?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Ryan moved,
No, Brian, I'll second it.
all in favor? That's 5, and it's.
You didn't do that, Brian, we couldn't go